Hello and welcome to Jessie James Beads. My name is Jem. Today we're going to be looking at the classic Color Trends bead mix in Lili. There are some beautiful shapes, colours and textures in this mix, so let's make some Lili inspired earrings together. This is Bead Mix Lili from Color Trends, and what a beautiful collection of colours it is. We've got pinks and purples and some of the most beautiful clay beads. I absolutely adore these. Come back to this mix time and time again. It's a beautiful collection of textures and shapes. Absolutely gorgeous. So why don't we make some earrings together today? Here we are. So some Lili inspired drop earrings. I think I'm going to make a third one and use it as a pendant to go with my Lili earrings. For our wire today, we're going to be using an 18 gauge round wire. Now this is quite a soft wire and I have approximately 12 inches in length. We're going to be using a couple of tools. I've got my bent chain nose pliers. You can use standard chain nose pliers. I've got some round nose pliers and I've got my professional flush cutters. So let's make a start on these lovely lilies. So I'm going to pop my pliers over the very end of that wire, probably around 1/4 of an inch, just less than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to start by gently bending that around in an arc to get a bit of a petal shape. Now I tend to start off with my chain nose pliers on just the first petal, and hereafter we'll be shaping the outside of the petal with those round nose pliers, but for me to get control of this long length of wire I prefer to start with those chain nose pliers. So that's the kind of shape we're looking to create, and we'll do that 8 times. So we're going to grip across the wire. I'm going to use my bent chain nose pliers from underneath, and it's going to be just a little distance before you reach that end part, or that beginning part if you prefer. So let's just bring that wire around, just trying to mind the lighting gantry, and just pull that back on itself until we get another little curve going on. Now we're going to want to flatten this to quite a closed up section. So you could do this by hand by just holding the wire like so and popping the tips of your chain nose pliers over the end and giving that a squish and a squeeze. What can happen sometimes is that one of those pieces of wire will flip up over the top of the other one. So I'm going to show you a technique utilising a second pair of any flat pliers. And what we're going to do here is just hold across the whole form. Let's get that in the light and squish the very end section until it's quite close together. Now you'll notice that I do that over several steps. I don't rush it and I don't crush it. So we've just got reasonably closed up, but there is still a little bit of a loop in the middle there visible. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a strengthen now that I'm happy with it. And then we're going to put down some of our tools. Flip that over. For me, I'm right dominant, so it's easier for me to teach in this orientation. And what we're going to do now is to start rolling in with those round nose pliers. So if I begin a little bit further away than the end of the petal, but then start to just roll and roll and roll until I get a second petal shape forming that's about the same size. That's just a little bit too long. So we'll roll that around again until we're ready. That looks reasonable to me, and you can just hold the wire with whichever set of pliers you prefer to bring that closed up into the middle. Don't worry about this starting point being slightly open to begin with. I'm not going to let it worry me. I'm just going to gently bring that wire around because it's starting to hit on things because it's such a long piece of wire. So now it's just a case of repeating over and over again. What I would say is do try to keep an eye on the size of the petals to make sure that they stay around the same size. If they don't, you can open them out a little bit with those round nose pliers just to get a beautiful soft rounded petal shape. So we're going to repeat this a number of times, and you'll notice that I grab that wire just before it's next to that central point. So push that away from you, and I'm just bringing that round steadily until it starts going back in the opposite direction. Now again, you can use your fingers to hold the wire if you have good grip strength, just to close this up. and then give that a little bit of a strength, and we'll re-strengthen the whole thing. Now at the moment my petals are a little bit open in the middle here. We're going to sort that out when we get there. I'm going to show you one more petal and then I'll whiz around and do another 5 after this third one. So let us grab those round nose pliers again, and again I'm just going to roll around with those pliers until I get that rounded form on the outside. Just check for size. You could put a marker pen mark on your pliers just to give you an idea of what kind of size you should be aiming for. That's a little bit large, but overall I'm quite happy with it, so I'm going to give it a quick squish with the flat faces of my chain nose pliers, and then again I'm going to grip across that wire and bring it back to the outside of my little petal formation. So again we're going to squish up the centerpiece, and I'll show you that alternative fashion one more time. So I'm gripping across the whole assembly, and we're just going to close up that middle bit so that it's nice and tight. Doesn't need to be completely closed, but you need to be able to see the difference between the inside and the outside, so you can kind of go back retrospectively, close the preceding one up as well if you need to. So I'm going to repeat this 8 times because that's the number I have on my earrings. If you wanted to make a pendant and earring set, you could definitely make this one much larger. I'm aiming to keep it around about the same size, and I'll be back with you in a second. I've made my 8 petals. You could change the number if you wanted to. This just seemed to work quite nicely. So what we're going to do now is just to refine the overall shape of our lily. You may wish to just adjust any of the petals that aren't quite round enough using very gently your round nose pliers. And then what we're going to do is just to open those ever so slightly so that the petals begin and end at the same place. And you'll see also that on my 8th petal I didn't bring the wire back out to the outside. You may also like to just make sure that those inner bits are nice and squished up tight. So the wire continues across the very centre of my lily at this stage, and again just take your time to refine the overall shape and make sure that you're happy with it. I'm then going to use my bent chain nose pliers across the centre of our lily, holding on to the continuation of that wire, and I'm going to find the very centre point of my design, and then just a tiny tidgy bit to the right closest to the petal. I'm going to draw the wire up at 90 degrees to the whole design. So if I show you in this orientation, you'll see you've got a central post. So yes, I understand it doesn't quite look like a lily, but you get the picture. So what we're going to do is to go around that frame with our flat facing, in this case chain nose pliers, and just strengthen up each of those petals by giving them a bit of a squish. I know that's one of my top used words, but it's the most descriptive one. So we've now got our lily with a wire coming away behind it. And what we're going to do is just straighten and smooth the tail of that wire. Now, purple is absolutely one of my favourite colours. Purple and red I tend to wear a lot of. However, I really like the juxtaposition between the blue on the clay bead and the feisty hot pink of this bead. So we're going to use a hot pink. We're going to thread that onto the tail of the wire, and you'll be able to see that in the finished design just peeking away through that centerpiece. So I've the lowest part of my earrings to have the beginning and end point. So let's just pop those back down and I'll show you what I mean. So we have a beginning just here and an end as it goes through the bead just here. And I like the idea of that looking the same on both earrings. So when I draw the wire up from behind, I'm going to bring it up, and the lowest point of my earring is just here where the beginning and end point are. So they're opposing each other. So just bring that up firmly behind your bead, and you'll see that that's how they're going to look in wear. Now what we're going to do is give that wire a lovely warm. I'm using actually quite a soft copper core wire today. It just makes it ever so slightly easier to achieve those lovely fluid petals. It will work with a medium wire as well. So what we're going to do now is to find the opposite point. We've got the lowest point where we've got the beginning and end, and then up at the top we've got a little space between those two petals that are opposite the lower point. And I'm just going to draw the wire across between them for a second, just so I know that my hanging is going to be in exactly the right orientation. So let us now grab that wire across with our chain nose pliers and just pull that up in approximately the middle of that bead. And then as I pull the wire away at 90 degrees, I'm just going to push it down over the middle of that bead. And what you should find when you turn this around, let's just smooth that wire, is that the tail of wire is coming up in a straight line opposite the beginning and end point. Then you can use whichever beads you like to create this stack, but I adore these chubby golden spacers, love these fiery blue faceted rondelles, and of course my love affair with these beautiful floral clay beads. I stand absolutely no chance of making anything quite so beautiful as that clay bead. I'm then just going to reverse the order. Oh, I've done that different to my earrings. Never mind. Let's pop the blue one on and then the golden one. So you could change the order if you like. Let me just show you. So on my earrings, I've got blue rondelle followed by golden spacer, and then a lovely clay bead in the middle. And then over here, I've got a different order of running, which is absolutely fine. I like them both. So we're going to now turn the whole thing sideways, grip across that core, push the wire away till we have a sideways bend. And then we're going to use those round nose pliers. Now, if I'm making this as an earring, this is the orientation I will usually go for, purely because it will mean my loop is in the same orientation as the table, which means my earring finding will fit into it. If I wanted to make this as a pendant, as I think I'm going to, I will want that to be at 90 degrees. So I'm showing you both options, dependent on how you want to make the design. If I grip across that wire and just bring that up, you can get away with changing that one time. So once you've got that forwards bend on the wire, we're going to grab hold of a round form. I'm going to grab my Beadalon wooden round mandrel, draw that all the way around the top and just pop that down. So we're just going to finish off with a wrapped loop just here. And as I mentioned before, if it was an earring, your wrapped loop would be sideways in the same orientation. So I think you've seen me do enough wrapped loops, but I'll whiz through that really quickly. I'm just going to support across that round form, very, very firmly, ensuring that none of that wire gets nibbled away into the coil that we're about to make. Draw that all the way around and then bring it to the rear side. Let's tidy that up. Just squishing until that's neat, and then we'll trim away that last little tail. So we've trimmed away around about an inch of wire, and we started with quite a lot, didn't we? So make sure that you're happy with how tidy that looks. So making sure that everything's good and straight. There's your pendant version. Let's take a look at the earrings. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely hang this in the opposite orientation, and you'll see that lovely feisty pink bead in the centre with flower petals radiating round behind it. So as ever, you've got choices of how you can personalise this lovely Color Trends Lili bead mix earring. Have yourself a beautiful day, and I'll see you very soon. This is Jem at Jessie James Beads.